We got Jerusalem is going to be the new capital, or I guess that's what is happening. It looks like they're conflating the capital with that's where America is going to set up the embassy, is in Jerusalem. And there's a big outcry from some people. My Palestinian friend I talked to about this thing, and he says he doesn't like it, but he still likes Trump and he still trusts the whole program. That this is probably something that had to happen. I don't know. It's kind of his attitude, and like biblical level stuff. That's happening here, and that is a tough pill to swallow for some people. But in the long run, it's going to probably be a good thing for the Muslims. Like, tit for tat, maybe sort of thing, where there's some concessions probably that they're feeling we've been done this grievous wrong by Israel claiming Jerusalem their capital, but maybe it'll at least clear the water a little bit, and we can see a little more clearly and get some respect maybe. I think that's what at least the Muslims should expect. The Palestinians, all these people want respect from the Israelis, and they're due respect. We're all due respect. We're ungodly if we don't respect one another. That's treating others the way you want to be treated. If you don't want to be treated with respect, then don't treat people with respect. But of course, everybody does. Who in their right mind doesn't want to be treated with a modicum of respect, at least, just for being a human being that's born and's got to die? I mean, there's a lot of basic fundamental reasons why we should respect each other. And how do we display that, reflect that, and show that respect? It's common decency and just respect that people are valuable. Okay, you can't marginalize people. You can't look down on people. You've got to think of them as your equal. That's it. And wanting the best for them. The same things you want for yourself and your family. Remember, it's not hard to make sense of this whole thing. And that's one way I would certainly do it. But, I think that I don't think it's going to turn out as horrific for the Muslims as they, some perceive right now. But I think the more thoughtful ones, let's say, the deeper thinkers will see that this is, in the long run, it's going to be good. That this will be like, Newton, for every action there's an equal, though opposite reaction. So something good, some blessing has to be bestowed upon the Muslim world, I believe, because of this incident. And they need to come together and stop killing themselves. This feud between the Shias and the Sunnis or whatever. I mean, it seems like there's so many nuances involved here that my head spins. And I don't even think a lot of Muslims really understand it. I really don't. So it's just, it's like the devil's in the detail of these matters that divide people. We've got to remember that. The devil is in the detail of those things that divide people. That's it. And this is by deliberation. The MSM is harping and lying about the negative effects of certain segments of society, about this raising. They're saying that Trump's policies are going to cause a negative effect to certain segments of society. It's going to raise their prices. No, they're saying they're hedging their bets by saying it could. It could. You see what I mean? Because they know, if they're smart, they know all the stuff Trump's doing is going to bring your cost of living down. That means it's going to bring the worth of your currency up. A good thing. Oh, Alex Jones had Max Kaiser on the show. It was funny because Max had given his friend Russell Brand. A lot of people know he's probably kind of famous, I guess. I'm not exactly even sure what for, but I think he did some acting, though. I know he was in some movie, some famous movie. But he gave him, at the time, a Bitcoin. I guess he gave him a flash drive or something with $1,000 worth of Bitcoin when Bitcoin was like about $3 or so bucks per Bitcoin. And now Max says that Russell Brand has supposedly lost it, and it's worth $18 million now. That $1,000 just not even 7 years ago, I guess, or so, is worth $18 million now. And the mainstream media won't touch it. Like, that's not a story of interest for these people. Can you imagine that? I mean, and we think that the mainstream media is not involved in lying, at least through omission, and the way they slant and tell their stories. There's one central point. It's syndicated. They're all reading off a script like it's not rigged. Good God. And these people's job is, this is the cutting edge, educators out there, is the media. We depend on honest journalism, reporters out there. And this is the kind of crap we're supposed to buy. And I don't blame local media is not nearly as fraudulent as they're reporting car accidents and fires and floods and crime and all that kind of stuff locally. But when it comes to the national stuff, that syndicated crap, and even the local, they got them reading off these scripts too. They get to share and partake in the deceit, this plan of keeping them, throwing mud. That's what they're doing. These are the mudslingers, okay, that keep the waters bloodied and muddied and getting us to accept it, and just it has to be that way. And don't even try to confront the issues. Just go with the flow. The problem's overwhelming. There's nothing you could do. Leave it to the elite, the powerful people, the politicians we hire, and they'll fix it. They'll tweak it here and there, and we'll make progress somehow, someday, some way. But what they trying to get the public to believe in is to believe in nonsense, and madness is going to somehow come, that we're going to extricate ourselves through just imbibing more and more in this. Keep feeding the beast more and more and more, and that's going to fix it. When they know, they've got to know better. So, I mean, I'm sorry. See, I get frustrated and I fall into this angry mode, and I'm trying not to. I want the Spirit of truth to guide me so I don't just start harping and bitching and moaning and complaining. Because I don't complain for myself. Like I've said before, I'm a spoiled brat. Okay? I wish everybody had it at least as good as me. Then I could enjoy more, a more luxurious, profligate lifestyle. But until then, I don't see it. For me, to each his own. But for me, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm coming from. As I would reject great prosperity. Maybe I wouldn't reject it. Maybe I'll just give more to charity or something. I don't know. We'll see. If I'll burn that bridge when I get to it. But I know this about myself, that I couldn't enjoy the prosperity until I see others moving up the ladder. Okay, and I start seeing this wound on the collective body of humanity, bound where it's hemorrhaging, where it's logical and reasonable. Then I could enjoy moving up, because I've got a conscience, and I bear my conscience before God like we all do every day. He knows our hearts and minds, our spirits are, so he knows what's in us. He knows if we're acting with integrity as he defines it, and honor as he defines it, and soulfully as he defines it, spiritually as he defines it. Okay, and so we've all got to answer to our conscience, to him, to God. And so I want to be pure of heart, and I don't want to just harp on the evildoers all day. I want to be free from these people. I want you to be free. I want us all to be free. I want us all to get it. And I don't want to be deceived, and if I'm being deceived, I got to expose it. Like it's written in Scripture, have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. And I do that continuously in my series of videos, because I've got an obligation, a responsibility, a duty to my fellow human beings, to God. If I'm his friend, then I've got to go out and do what I've got to do. I've got to teach and preach and try to win more friends for him, because that's treasure. That's storing treasure in heaven. And that's where my happiness is going to be handed out, is by him, the one that controls reality and controls the degree of happiness I'm able to experience. And it's not valid until I'm willing to give it away, and I do my best to give it away and share, and because we got to move up together here. We do. We, as a family, as a race, as a species, as a civilization, we've got to go this thing together. Once you get it as an individual, light bulb goes off, and you go, oh my God. I've been believing wrong. I've been hung up in the muddied, bloodied waters of excruciating minutia and BS that's handed down to me. And it's easy. Any of us can fall into it. I mean, it's very powerful deceit that these people are infecting the populace with. But we can find a way out. It's through his Spirit, the Spirit of truth. If we lean to him, just with an ounce of faith, a mustard seed of faith, a itty bitty tiny bit of faith, then he will lead us straight. We are a miracle. We are incredible creatures with unlimited, eternal, infinite potential to do whatever we want. That's what he wants. He wants what's reasonable and logical, what any good parent wants for their children. He certainly wants for us. He wants us to be happy and free. It all makes perfect sense. So that's what we've all got to be striving for here, folks. But the mainstream media, yeah, I mean, anybody that's deceiving, if I got to expose them. If I believe it's deceitful, and I've just got to suppose that they don't understand that they're being deceivers, because nobody would deliberately be a deceiver. And I can't, that makes me nauseous to think that somebody would ever do that. So I can't. That's judging. That's condemning them. So I can't do that. I was interested in what the requirements were for the joining the Chamber of Commerce, working for them. And it was very interesting to me, even though the whole business has to do with money, economics, finance, all this kind of crap. Uh, One of them, you don't have to have any economic background. You don't have to have taken one class in economics. Isn't that interesting? I remember when I tried to get into ethics, I thought, well, what do I want to be an ethicist when I grow up? And so I went, look, you know what you got to have? You got to learn a lot of math. Okay, who would think math and ethics? Okay, it's like, ooh, there seems to be a cutoff, a breakaway here, a departure from reality. And that's why I call them a chamber of communists. I mean, communists, what do? They try to confuse you. Guys like George Soros make you think they're the egalitarian good guys. They're the compassionate ones. They're the party of the people and labor and blue collar and all that crap. When the exact opposite is the reality. It's mind-numbing, the level of deceit, I believe, that these people are engaged in. Again, I don't judge or condemn them. They're God's property. It's just I've got to do everything I can to expose where I believe people are, taken off track of true reality, which God is the one that decides and defines that. Okay, moving on to thoughts from the past couple of weeks. Colluding special interest groups, a loophole in the law against monopolizing. That's right. Think about that. If you work together against the interests of other groups of people, which is basically people at large, and say, well, I'm part of that group and it's working for me. Okay, it's in my interest. It's a taken from Peter to pay Paul. That's how this whole system works. How do you think you create this wealth and income disparity? It's like, wow, it benefited him, so why don't call it bad? It's good if you're making money off this crony capitalism. If you're a real estate agent, or if you're a lender, or if you're a landlord, or you're an investor, or a speculator, or a house flipper, or you're somehow otherwise involved in what benefits the housing industry. Benefits what? Currency debasement. But you say my numbers look great, so I don't care about currency debasement. It's worked in my favor. My numbers look good. That's your problem. So they don't care about it snapping the weaker links in society, those that don't jump on the bandwagon soon enough. Basically, that's what it comes down to. Oh well, you missed the boat. Your nut's going to keep getting harder and harder to crack. Social Darwinism. Sorry, it's the wave of the future. Get used to it. Get with the program. Go with the flow. It's sickening. So that's what we got going on. Even the contractors would be involved. And the worst colluding special interest group in the housing thing, the manipulation of housing costs, is the government to me, because they're supposed to be looking after the best interest of the people. We hire them to do a job for the people at large. Because once the taxes go in the kitty, they belong to everybody. We all have equal say in where they go. So I take that $50 billion away and put only $10 billion into building people houses and fixing the problem permanently. And all those tens of millions of people that would be homeless, put them in shelters temporarily until their lottery ticket comes up. Their number comes up and they get a house given to them because they're a weak link and they can't afford to buy their own house. Not that a weak link is a bad link. It's just weak. It is what it is.
They're happening. The girls here.
Gotta love the Supremes, huh? If any given economic policy benefits any segment of society, though through default, through cause and effect, is necessarily detrimental to any other segment of society, it is simply an unacceptable economic policy. And that's exactly what I was talking about just prior to that. It's an anathema. It's a bad thing, okay? That's it. It's creating imbalance. It's going to create animosity. It's going to create socialism and communism and a social welfare state. All this crap. And it just pulls us deeper and deeper into the muddier and bloodier water. It's going to get more and more opaque, those that stay in it. And, I'm telling you, you don't have to stay in it. Come out of it. And I don't tell you to go to the other side. I'm not saying that, just prescribe to social Darwinian economic principles and just, say, screw the other people. I'm going to join one of these special interest groups, and it's every man for himself now. Okay, you can't do that. Then you're going to hell on a rocket. I'm telling you, I'm warning you. I'm the watchman on the wall. I don't want your blood on my head or on my hands. So I have a duty and obligation to my fellow human beings to warn